And a very pleasant good afternoon, everyone. Welcome into O'Neill's Grill for our weekly Fan and Press Luncheon with JMU basketball coaches. We tip off this week once again with the head coach of the JMU women's basketball Dukes, and welcome into Kenny Brooks. The Dukes this past week, a couple of victories on the road, heading to the northern end of the Colonial Athletic Association Friday night, knocking off the Hofstra Pride in impressive fashion, 71-54 that final. And then yesterday, battling a pesky Husky team from Northeastern. Would that be a good way to put it?
Very good way to put it.
61-52 was the final there. And, Coach, a business trip for the Dukes going north, and you come back with 2 more wins, 9 in a row now for James Madison, a game-and-a-half lead over the rest of the pack of the CAA. Just summarize the weekend play for your Dukes.
Very productive weekend. Very proud of the kids and their performances. We just found a way to win the basketball game. We actually won them in 2 different fashions. I thought Friday night, we were led by our senior guards who really carried us throughout the basketball game, and some other players chipped in when they had to. And then Sunday, it was a tale of it was a different game, and our post players really carried us when our guards struggled a little bit. So collectively, they all pitched in, did what they had to do, and it's really fun, Kurt, watching this group just form their own identity and just finding ways to get it done, because there's a lot of parity in our league, which is evident by teams going to different places and losing games that you don't think that they should lose. But we came out, and Friday night, I thought the kids were very focused and put together a really solid effort. Took care of the basketball. We had some players step up and play tremendously down the stretch. And then Friday, Sunday, we were a little bit tired, with the travel, less than 48 hours, you're playing another game. And it was a grinded out type effort, and it wasn't pretty, but I think there's going to be a lot of games like that in the CAA this year, and you just had to find a way to win, and we did so.
When you played Hofstra on the front end of that, I'm sure there was a lot of emotion spent in that game, which may have made it difficult, a little bit of a hangover, if you will, going into Sunday, at least in my opinion. Angela Mickens, who, by the way, celebrates a birthday today, she had the career-tying high 20 points on Friday night at Hofstra, and then comes up with 10 assists yesterday. In the game against Hofstra, she got off to a really hot start. Can you tell us how that happened and what she did to kind of set the tone?
Well, I mean, she was very focused, and she had coming off a couple sluggish efforts. She really got her mojo back. It's funny, I got an anonymous letter must have been from the Muff Mickens fan club, because they said that I'm not playing her right. I demoted her to point guard, and she's a much better player than that. I don't know what that meant, but and they signed it as a R.E. Lee alum. So, but if you're listening out there, Muff's doing perfectly fine, and we have her in a position that we really want her in. And she was very dominant. She was very dominant. She was focused. She looked for she took what the defense gave her, and they were trying to play off of her a little bit. She had the jump shot going. They pushed up on her. She was able to get into the lane and create for others, and just did a really good job. I felt like we were connected. We were on the same page, and it got us off to a really hot start. Opened some things up for Jazz, who really got things going, and it was just a team effort, and I thought everyone played well.
Jazz ended up with a career-high 34 in that win at Hofstra on Friday night in a rematch of last year's CAA championship game, by the way. And she is named this week's CAA Player of the Week. And there are some games now where it just looks like she is Curry-esque, if you would. And talking about Steph Curry, of course.
Well, she would probably say Kobe. She's a little bit longer. But, it's very interesting because – I've said this before, that she's starting to understand the alpha dog mentality, and she's starting to like it. The game is slowing down a little bit for her. She's seeing different looks. She's coming into my office, and she says, what do you think they're going to do this week? How are they going to play me? And she's prepared for, the way people are going to play her. And, she's seen some trick defenses where they're trying to face guard her. She's been very patient and understanding where she's going to get her shots, how she's going to get them. And even on Sunday when she didn't have it, people can, it's really easy to get wowed by her scoring prowess and what she's doing. But Kurt, some of the things that she's doing on the defensive end is unbelievable. We were on the plane ride back yesterday, and Coach O'Regan was sitting in front of me, And I probably tapped his shoulder 3 or 4 times during the flight as I was watching the game film, and just the mistakes that she erases, the amount of yardage that she covers during plays, and she makes fantastic plays on the defensive end. It's really carrying us, and it's just she's much more than just a scorer for us. She's doing so many different things, and the game is slowed down. And in my opinion, she's the best player in the league, hands down.
Well, you're talking about defense, and this has been a season, obviously, with the offense taking the hits with the injuries and what have you. Do you feel like your defense has been a consistent part of your game, or has that been up and down? Where do you value the defense right now with this team?
I think we're as good a defensive team as we've been in the past. I think the only effects that we might see is the kids who are primarily out on the court, they have to play a little bit longer stretches. And then we might have to, substitute for some younger kids who have gotten a lot better and getting a lot better. But I think the mainstay and the biggest key for us being as good as we are defensively is probably Kayla Cooper-Williams. She anchors the defense down low. We haven't missed a beat. Obviously we missed a little bit of experience from Lady, but Kayla does a really good job of understanding defensive schemes, where she's supposed to be, her length. She contests shots, she alters shots, and then it allows Jasmine to be able to run free. Muff hasn't, really taken as many charges as she normally has. But that's because we're really telling her not to, because we can't afford to get her banged up. But we affect the three-point shot. We run people off the line, and then we rebound the basketball extremely well. So I'm really pleased with our defense and how it's really keeping us in games. And, we give up some things. We understand that, but we do a really good job of taking teams out of their rhythm.
From the interior side of things, Coach, with Dee Dee Griffin, of course, you just talked about Kayla Cooper-Williams. Obviously, you won a lot of rebounds from the two of them, but what did you anticipate? That's an area that's been stable in terms of health, knock on wood, but what did you anticipate from an offensive standpoint from that group collectively?
Had no idea, really none whatsoever. And even as the season progressed or even started, we still didn't know. I mean, if you'll remember, you can go back to the St. Bonaventure game. Kayla Cooper-Williams got a DNP coach's decision. She wasn't hurt. She was fine, and we didn't play her in that game because we were searching. She was a little bit up and down. The light bulb went off for her probably around the holiday tournament in Florida, where she battled a very tough, physical West Virginia team and a very physical Baylor team, and has really taken off since then. Dee Dee Griffin, she's been a little bit up and down with her scoring, but she's been very consistent with her rebounding, and she leads the league in rebounding. And so that's really been a staple for us, and she's really helped us anchor that. And then, Savannah Felgemacher, we've been, playing around with her, trying to determine whether or not she's going to be a power forward or a small forward. We kind of settled in on a small forward position, which now has opened up some space for Destiny Jones. And in the last 2 games, Destiny Jones has gotten some time and made the most of it. And with her experience and her toughness, it allows us to have a 3-person rotation for those 2 spots at the post, and it allows them to play fresh. And we rotated them in and out, and then you look at their production in the last 2 games since Destiny was inserted into the rotation, and it's really helped us because the post players have played really well the last 2 games.
What are you instructing in the decision-making for Dee Dee in the terms of she gets an offensive rebound? Is it look for the shot first? Is it look for the pass? How are you determining what she's to do with the basketball after she's got an offensive board in particular?
It hasn't been one way or the other. There's been several times, several days in practice, several, situations where we say, hey, you probably should shoot that one when you have a free lane when you get an offensive rebound. There's been times in practice where she'll get an offensive rebound and she'll throw the ball back out, and I'll blow the whistle and stop everyone, make everyone freeze, and I'll make her look to see where she is in proximity to the basket and who's in front of her. And I'm like, I can't design a play to get you the ball any closer to the basket than when you're at. And so it's just been a learning process for her. She hasn't played extensive minutes until now. And I think she's getting more and more comfortable with her situation. Yesterday, I thought she did a really good job of getting some offensive rebounds and going straight up with it. She didn't always make them all, but it put pressure on the defense and she got to the free throw line a couple times. And I think she's really striking a great balance in whether or not to go back up with it or to kick it back out so we have another opportunity. So it's all been through trial and error. She wasn't always there in the beginning, but with extensive, talking to and teaching and talking through the situations, now she's learning when she probably should shoot it, when she probably should kick it back out.
I'm going to go back to the R.E. Lee alum question there for you, Coach.
My head's still spinning on that one.
Well, it kind of brought to mind the fact that you're going out and you're recruiting, obviously, in many cases, the best athlete off of a high school team, a best athlete off an AAU team, and you've got to bring that collection in here, and they have to have defined roles. They can't simply all be 5 individuals out there on the floor. I'm sure you probably relish the challenge to do that, and it's, quite frankly, to me, it seems like one of those things that is a rewarding teaching aspect of, okay, you had to rein Muff Mickens in initially.
No question. I'm a big football fan, and and I watch, and I've watched Coach Withers, Coach Matthews, and I've always been intrigued by they go out and recruit the best athletes. And in high school, they might be a quarterback, but they're going to make them a cornerback. And that's something that we've done here. We've taken it. We've taken, Nikki Newman's, Kirby Burkholder's, Tamara Young's, who were post players in high school, but they were nimble, they were agile, they were athletic enough that they could play on the perimeter with some teaching. And by doing so, it allows us to be really athletic in different spots, bigger in different spots, and able to compete with BCS programs when we need to. And Muff was no different. We knew Muff was very fast, and in high school, she went in and I saw her score 50 points in a game against Harrisonburg. And the first thing I told her when I gave her a hug was, I don't need you to score 50, because we have a lot of kids who can score, but your gift, your present to us is going to be your ability to facilitate, play fast, be a good defender, and score when you have to. When she got here, it was a bit of a struggle because she really wanted to play the way that she played all of her life, and it wasn't as easy. You couldn't go in and just get a layup. Now there's going to be 6'4" kids in there blocking your shot, and when she conformed to it, she's the best at it. And I don't mean that disrespectfully to the Andre Benvenutos of the world, but what Muff has done has been far better than anyone that's ever played the position for me, because she's come in and she had to learn how to be a facilitator, and then all of a sudden when she mastered that, it's like the rug was pulled out from underneath of her, and she had to go back to being a scorer. And she's done that with tremendous ability, with humility, and she's taken on that role, and she's flourishing in it. And I'm very, very excited for her. And she and I had a very in-depth conversation the other day, and I just told her how I appreciate everything that she's done for this program and for me, by really just doing what the program needed her to do. So, special young lady. Happy birthday, Muff. You're getting to be an old woman. We got a few more games left, and but very, very, very proud of what she's been able to accomplish over her career.
All right, let's turn it over to other members of the media that are along with us here at O'Neill's Grill with our weekly Fan and Press Luncheon with JMU women's basketball coach Kenny Brooks.
Well, Coach, we've talked about Jazz. We've talked about Muff separately. And in a season where this team has faced a lot of struggles, this duo in particular seems to have been very consistent. What is it about these two together on the court that always seems to be clicking and gets coaches' heads in a spin?
Well, I mean, first and foremost, they're two of the most unselfish kids I've ever had. They'll do whatever that's best for the program. They're very confident kids. When Precious went down, both of them were very concerned, and they were concerned for Precious. They were disappointed for Precious, but both of them had a calm about them. It wasn't panic. They were always like, "We'll be okay. I just got to find a different way to do it." And it helped me through my struggles because I was a little bit leery of the situation, but they did a really good job of not only calming the team down, but the coaching staff down. But they're very confident kids. They're very proud of the program. I thought they went out this past weekend, and a lot of what they're doing is playing for pride because they don't want to let the legacy of the program down or JMU Nation down. And now they find a way. They're very talented, and they're showing you right now that they could have done this last year, but they sacrificed for the betterment of the team. And now when they're thrust into the situation where they have to do different things, Jasmine wasn't always comfortable shooting 25 shots. She was very shy about doing that. Now she's very comfortable doing it if it's going to help us win a basketball game. Muff still, it doesn't matter how many points she gets. The first thing she looks at is her assist to turnover ratio because that's embedded in her and how she's going to play. But two of the best kids I've ever been around. The great kids, very prideful, and they're really carrying us this year.
Northeastern is your first repeat opponent of the CAA schedule. So now as we get into teams getting a second chance at you, what makes this part of the schedule a little bit more challenging?
Well, I mean, obviously they've seen us live, and regardless of how many times you played us in the past, it's a new version of our team. So now everyone's seen it, and they're going to make adjustments, just as we're going to make adjustments. So it's a really fun part of the year because now you've seen it. You can go out and you can adjust and do some things, and we'll be prepared. We're sure we're going to see some trick defenses, but the problem with trick defenses for the team who tries to do them is that it's not really in your DNA. You're just trying to make up something to do something and see if it works. It's not what you've been practicing since day one. So it might work for a few possessions, but lo and behold, you'll go back to your roots. And we just have to weather the storm until we figure it out, or until people figure out that it's not going to be the best situation.
The buzz in women's basketball is on tonight, number 1 versus number 2, Connecticut and South Carolina. As a coach, do you watch? One, do you watch? 2, what do you take away from that kind of matchup that everyone loves to talk about?
No, tonight I'll be watching Spotswood versus Monticello. That's my big Monday. But it's good for the sport. I mean, obviously the fact that one does play 2, regardless of what scenario, what leagues they're in. I think for it to be really good for the sport, if South Carolina can make it a game, I think they have a chance to win it, but Connecticut has shown over the past, how many years that they're very dominant. It doesn't matter who they play, but it's good for the sport. It's good for the sport when those two get together and they're going to play, hopefully it'll be a really good game, but somebody let me know how it goes. I'll be watching Monticello.
Talking about Precious being on the bench, how much coaching does she do to the ladies on the floor and then to those around her, because she does understand the game so well and has been a part of the flow so much? How much coaching does she do to those around her?
A lot. As a matter of fact, I remember standing up Sunday and talking to Muff when Muff came to the sidelines, and Precious was giving her an earful right behind me. She said, "Muff, hey, you didn't do this, you didn't do that on that situation." And Muff looks right at her and says, "Okay." And, the respect that they have for each other is tremendous. We were playing Hofstra, and if you really sit back and take a look at the scenario, Precious was the player of the year last year, WNBA aspirations going into this coming year, a lot riding on this year. She has a devastating injury. She's not going to be able to play. So Jazz steps in, into her situation. Well, you would think that there's going to be a little bit of animosity, a little bit of disappointment. The Jazz is in her role, so to speak, and doing well. But when Jazz had a role, and Precious was the biggest cheerleader. She was like, pumping Jazz up, telling Jazz that nobody can guard you. You're the best. You do this. And that really just showed me really where our program is. They want each other. They want them to do well. And if Precious was the biggest cheerleader, Ashley was the second one. They were like Jazz's hype machine, getting them going. And that just goes to show you the chemistry that we have with this program and how they cheer for each other. And that's a big reason why we're so successful.
Speaking of Ashley, how far out do you think she is before she's able to return to the lineup?
You know what? She's made a lot of progress in the last couple days, last week or so. She'll actually get some shots up today. She got a special brace that came in today. She sheds the boot today, so we'll just go from there. Whether it's going to be Friday, Monday, or Sunday, or next week, we'll let her come along slowly. But she's really on the cusp of getting back to some action, and we're excited about it.
You're at Drexel on Friday, always a challenging situation. Talk about where they are at this point, because I know they've had a loss or two in their schedule. Talk about what your expectations are for Friday.
Well, it's going to be a dogfight. Anytime you go into the DAC, it's going to be a tough place to play. Denise is one of the best coaches in the league. She'll have her team ready. They're coming off of a loss, fluke loss at Charleston. But it just goes to show you the parity of our league. and everyone can beat anyone on a given day. So, our mantra is to win the weekend. We did so last weekend. We know it's going to be a very tough challenge this weekend with the number 2 and 3 team in the league. One on the road, one we just played, 9 days ago, whatever it's going to be. So it's going to be a challenge. We understand that, but I like where we are. These kids are just taking it day by day, team by team, and they know that we have Drexel. It's going to be a tough battle, and we'll go out and we'll play our best.
All right, Coach. One other thing I want to pass along about Jazz Gwathmey, of course, with her impact performance on Friday night, she was garnered the NCAA's impact performance recognition for her ball game there on Friday. And she passed some pretty important names in the history of JMU women's basketball, and she'll continue to do so as she scored past Mindy Childress, Missy Dudley, by the way, no relation. Everybody wants to ask me that. I call her Cuz, but we're not related. Vicki Harris, who another Waynesboro Little Giant
Little
alum.
Giant.
That's right. And Chrissy Heimbaugh, who does a good job of keeping up with the Dukes now as well, with Jazz now with 1,319 points. Just wanted to bring that to folks' attention here today. The Dukes at Drexel on Friday night, then back home on Sunday afternoon. It is a Valentine's Day matinee game, a 1 o'clock start. The Dukes and the Pride of Hofstra, that is, but no love lost between these two on Valentine's Day.
No, it's going to be a really good weekend. Obviously, going back to the convo on Sunday. Against a very talented Hofstra team. Very impressed with them. What we saw, they have the pieces. They're a veteran group. They've been there. So it's going to be a battle. So, all weekend long. But that's the challenges these kids are up for. Through adversity, through whatever situation, I really like what they're doing. So it's going to be a lot of fun this weekend.
All right, we again expect to see more than 2,000 at the Convocation Center for the Valentine's Day clash. Coach Brooks, thank you once again for joining us. Continued with the winning streak when you take the Dukes to Drexel on Friday night.
Thank you very much, Kurt.
All right, that's Kenny Brooks, head coach of the JMU women's basketball Dukes.